Remember when Game of Thrones broke our hearts? When we thought no fantasy series could ever enjoy that magic again? House of the Dragon brought it all back, but this time, we knew exactly what we were getting into. Best friends became mortal enemies. Fathers sacrificed everything for male heirs. And dragons, well, dragons danced. I've watched all 10 episodes twice, and I'm about to take you through the entire season 1 in the next 12 minutes. Our story begins with King Viserys Targaryen, who seems to have it all: a loving wife, Queen Aemma, a daughter he adores named Rhaenyra, and a baby boy on the way. But here's the thing about Targaryens: happiness never lasts long. While the realm celebrates the coming heir, Viserys throws a massive tournament. Everyone's drinking, jousting, having a great time. But in the birthing chamber, everything goes horribly wrong. The Maester gives Viserys an impossible choice: save his wife or save the baby. And here's where we see the first crack in this perfect family as Viserys chooses the heir. He doesn't even tell Aemma what's happening. They cut her open while she's still alive. Both Aemma and the baby die anyway. Viserys gets neither his wife nor his son, and Rhaenyra loses her mother for nothing. You see this very moment? This is what sets everything in motion: the first betrayal. Now, Viserys has a brother named Daemon. Think of him as the cool uncle who's definitely going to corrupt your kids. He's charismatic, dangerous, and next in line for the throne. But when Daemon makes jokes about the dead baby, calling it the heir for a day, Viserys snaps. In front of the entire court, Viserys does something unprecedented. He names his daughter Rhaenyra as his heir. Not his brother, not some distant male relative, his teenage daughter. Every lord in the realm has to kneel and swear loyalty to her. But he does something else that I find interesting. Viserys also tells Rhaenyra about something called the Song of Ice and Fire, a prophecy about a coming darkness. He says it's the real reason the Targaryens must rule. Does this sound familiar? Yeah, that's the White Walker threat from Game of Thrones. Power plays begin. 6 months later, everyone's telling Viserys he needs to remarry and try for more sons. The obvious choice is 12-year-old Laena Velaryon, because apparently that's normal in Westeros. Only that Viserys shocks everyone again. He marries Alicent Hightower, his daughter's best friend. Yeah, you heard that right. Rhaenyra's bestie becomes her stepmother. And Alicent? She's the daughter of Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King, who's been playing political games this whole time. This betrayal cuts deep because Rhaenyra trusted Alicent completely. They were sisters in everything but blood. And now suddenly, Alicent is the queen, and any sons she has will challenge Rhaenyra's claim to the throne. The prince is born, and the real threat emerges. 3 years later, Alicent gives birth to Prince Aegon. The moment this kid is born, everything takes a different turn. Half the realm immediately assumes he'll be the next king because, well, he's a boy. Meanwhile, Viserys keeps insisting Rhaenyra is still his heir, but his actions say otherwise. At Aegon's second birthday party, lords are openly discussing when Viserys will name the boy as heir. And Viserys? He's completely oblivious to how his choices are undermining his daughter. During a royal hunt, Rhaenyra runs off into the forest and ends up killing a wild boar with Sir Criston Cole. She comes back covered in blood, and there's this moment where she sees a white hart, a legendary creature that's supposed to appear before the rightful ruler. She lets it live, which is symbolic of her mercy, but also maybe her weakness. The brothel incident. After years of fighting in the Stepstones, Daemon returns to King's Landing. He's won his war, but instead of demanding recognition, he gives his crown to his brother. It's a power move that shows he's playing a longer game. Then Daemon does something that changes everything. He takes Rhaenyra out into the city in disguise. They're drinking, having fun, and it all leads to a brothel where they start getting intimate. The crazy twist is that Daemon leaves her there. He walks away. Rhaenyra stumbles back to the castle, frustrated and confused, and ends up seducing Sir Criston Cole, her sworn protector. So, in one night, she goes from almost sleeping with her uncle to definitely sleeping with her bodyguard. But Otto Hightower has spies everywhere. He hears about the brothel incident and immediately runs to Viserys. This is his chance to destroy Daemon and potentially Rhaenyra too. The lie that breaks everything. When Viserys confronts his daughter, she swears on her mother's memory that she's still a maiden. Technically, she's not lying. She didn't sleep with Daemon, but she definitely slept with Criston, so she's not exactly being honest either. Alicent, still believing in their friendship, defends Rhaenyra to the king. She vouches for her character, says she believes Rhaenyra is telling the truth. Viserys orders moon tea, which is a medieval birth control, to be brought to Rhaenyra's chambers. When Alicent finds out about the moon tea, she realizes Rhaenyra lied to her face. The last thread of their friendship snaps. From this moment on, they're not friends anymore, but enemies playing a game where only one can win. The wedding from hell. To clean up this mess, Viserys arranges for Rhaenyra to marry Sir Laenor Velaryon. Yet both Rhaenyra and Laenor are gay. Well, Laenor is definitely gay, and Rhaenyra at least isn't interested in traditional marriage. They make a deal. They'll do their duty in public, but in private, they'll have their own relationships. At the wedding feast, Alicent shows up wearing green, the color of House Hightower when they go to war. It's a declaration that she's no longer playing nice. The feast turns into chaos when Sir Criston Cole, who's been spiraling since sleeping with Rhaenyra, beats Laenor Laenor's boyfriend to death in front of everyone. Why does Criston snap? Because he thought Alicent knew about him and Rhaenyra, and when she questioned him, he confessed everything. Now he's destroyed his vows, his honor, and potentially his life. The wedding feast ends in blood, and Rhaenyra has to marry Laenor in a small, private ceremony instead of the grand celebration they planned, the time jump. We jump forward 10 years, and Rhaenyra is giving birth to her third child. But here's the problem. None of her kids look like her husband, Laenor. They all have brown hair, brown eyes, and look exactly like Sir Harwin Strong, the knight who's been protecting her. Everyone in King's Landing knows these kids are bastards, but nobody can say it out loud because Viserys refuses to acknowledge the obvious truth. Alicent is furious because Rhaenyra is flaunting her affair while she's been the dutiful wife and queen. The tension explodes in the training yard when Sir Criston Cole, now Alicent's sworn protector, starts bullying Rhaenyra's kids. Sir Harwin defends them a little too aggressively, making it obvious that he's their real father. This gives Larys Strong, Harwin's brother, an opportunity. He's been playing his own game, and he arranges for his brother and father to die in a fire at Harrenhal. So why does he do this? Please share your thoughts in the comments, and while at it, hit that subscribe button. Dragons and death. Meanwhile, Daemon has married Lena Valerian, and they've been living in exile with their twin daughters. But when Laena goes into difficult labor, she makes a choice that defines Targaryen character. Rather than die in childbirth like so many women, she walks out to her dragon Vagar and commands it to kill her. She dies a dragon rider's death on her own terms. At Lena's funeral, all the major players gather at Driftmark. The kids are dealing with loss, the adults are plotting, and everything comes to a head when young Aemon decides to claim Vhagar, the largest dragon in the world. The other children attack him for stealing their mother's dragon, and in the fight, Lucerys slashes Aemon's eye with a dagger. When the adults arrive, Alicent demands that Luke's eye be taken in return. Viserys refuses, so Alicent grabs his dagger and tries to cut Rhaenyra herself. This is the moment their Cold War becomes a hot war. Blood has been spilled between their children, and there's no going back. But Daemon has been thinking ahead. He realizes that Rhaenyra needs allies, and the best ally would be him. Only, there's the small problem of her husband, Laenor. Daemon arranges what appears to be Laenor's murder. His lover, Sir Carl, seemingly kills him and burns the body, except it's all fake. They killed some random guy, burned his body beyond recognition, and Laenor escapes across the narrow sea to live freely with his lover. It's actually kind of sweet. Everyone gets what they want and nobody really dies. With Laenor dead, Rhaenyra and Daemon marry in a Valyrian ceremony. This makes their future children legitimate and combines their claims to power. Their 5 kids from previous relationships become step-siblings in one of Westeros's most powerful families, the Dying King. 8 years later, Viserys is dying. He's held together by milk of the poppy and sheer willpower. When Lord Corlys is injured in the Stepstones, his brother Vaemond challenges Luke's inheritance of Driftmark, calling him a bastard in open court. For one final time, Viserys drags himself to the Iron Throne to defend his daughter and grandchildren. In a moment that shows why he was actually a decent king, he declares that Luke's parentage is settled and anyone who questions it again will lose their tongue. When Vaemond keeps talking, Daemon cuts his head off with Dark Sister. The message is clear. Challenge this family at your own peril. That night, Viserys brings both sides of his family together for one last dinner. For a moment, it seems like maybe they can reconcile. Rhaenyra and Alicent actually seem to remember their friendship, but when Viserys leaves, Aemon makes another strong boys joke, and the peace shatters immediately, the misunderstanding that starts a war. Alone with Alicent that night, Viserys is drugged out of his mind on pain medication. He thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra about the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy, about Aegon the Conqueror's dream of the coming darkness. But Alicent has no idea what he's talking about. She thinks he's saying that their son Aegon should be king. She takes his confused rambling as a deathbed wish to change the succession. Viserys dies that night, calling out for his first wife Aemma. The last great Targaryen king is gone, and with him, any hope of avoiding the civil war that's been brewing for 20 years. The next morning, Otto Hightower reveals that he's been planning this coup for years. They've already secured key allies, locked down the city, and prepared to crown Aegon. When Lord Beesbury objects, Sir Criston kills him on the spot. But they have one problem. They can't find Aegon. He's off in the fighting pits, watching children battle each other, and probably fathering more bastards. When they finally drag him back, he doesn't even want to be king. They crown him anyway in a massive ceremony at the Dragon Pit. However, Princess Rhaenys, who they thought they had locked up, crashes the party on her dragon Meleys. For a moment, it looks like she might end the war before it starts by burning them all. But she doesn't. Maybe it's mercy, maybe it's politics, but she flies away, leaving the usurpers alive to fight another day. The Black Queen. When Rhaenys arrives at Dragonstone with news of Viserys' death and Aegon's coronation, Rhaenyra goes into early labor from the shock. Her daughter is born dead, another child lost to the Game of Thrones. At her daughter's funeral, Rhaenyra is crowned the rightful queen by her supporters. She has the better claim, more dragons, and the loyalty of several great houses. But she also wants to avoid the war that will tear the realm apart. Otto arrives with terms for her surrender, honorable positions for her sons in exchange for giving up her claim. She actually considers it. She knows her father named her heir to keep the kingdom together, not to break it apart in civil war. But when she mentions the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy to Daemon, he's never heard of it. He thinks his brother was a fool for believing in dreams, and he chokes Rhaenyra for even considering surrender. The man she married for political alliance might just be another obstacle to overcome. The dance begins. Rhaenyra sends her sons as envoys, Jace to the north and the Vale, Luke to Storm's End to secure Lord Baratheon's support. It should be a simple diplomatic mission, but at Storm's End, Luke runs into his cousin Aemon, who's been waiting 6 years for revenge. When Lord Baratheon dismisses Luke without making any promises, Aemon follows him into the stormy sky. What happens next shows us that dragons aren't just weapons, they're living creatures with their own instincts. Both boys lose control as Vhagar, the massive war dragon, hunts down little Arax through the storm clouds. Vhagar kills both Luke and his dragon in a moment that echoes the uncontrolled violence that destroyed the original Game of Thrones. Aemon wanted to scare his nephew, maybe hurt him, but he didn't plan for murder. Yet murder is what he got. When Daemon brings news of Luke's death to Rhaenyra, we see her transform from a woman hoping for peace into a queen ready for war. The look in her eyes tells us everything. The Dance of Dragons has begun, and fire and blood will consume everything in its path. And that's how Season 1 ends, with a mother's grief igniting a war that will destroy the Targaryen dynasty. What started as a story about family, friendship, and duty became one of how power corrupts everything it touches. Season 2 promises to show us the full cost of this war. Brother against brother, dragon against dragon, and the realm paying the price for their rulers' ambitions. Because in the Game of Thrones, when you play with fire and blood, sometimes you get burned. Did you love this breakdown of the House of Dragons Season 1? Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more similar content.